Over 50 countries, key experts and organizations, including the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, and World Bank, were represented at a virtual high-level meeting of the United Nations on Thursday morning. The meeting, held to address critical financial issues and the economic devastation caused by COVID-19, was convened by Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, and Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. More from PBCJ's reporter Gabriel Thompson.
This crisis represents a unique opportunity to remedy socioeconomic disparities. We have a duty to ourselves and succeeding generations to put in place a bold, innovative, and resilient system to address the profound structural issues that impact our economies and our people. Excellencies, your participation today demonstrates the collective will of the international community to rally together to combat the wide-ranging impact of the coronavirus pandemic now and in the years ahead. Let us seize the moment.
In his opening remarks, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke of the need to think outside the box in devising a global coordinated plan to tackle the social and economic crisis prompted by the health crisis coronavirus COVID-19.
Over the coming months, we will all be working together in different work streams to bring forward ambitious but pragmatic solutions. Canada is ready to do our part as we help bring the world together in the fight against COVID-19. COVID-19 is an unprecedented challenge for our modern world, but it's also a unique opportunity to build a better future, to create a safe and prosperous world and an international system that recognizes who's left behind and strives to lift them up.
In his opening remarks, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres noted the world is in an unprecedented human crisis due to a microscopic virus and underscored the need for immediate collective action in 6 critical areas, including gender equality, global liquidity, and sovereign debt.
The economic fallout from the pandemic threatens to cause a wave of default in developing countries. Widespread debt crises will set back the response to COVID-19 and impede sustainable development for many years to come. The countries affected would have no prospect of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. The G20 debt moratorium is a first step, but it only covers the least developed countries. I recently had the opportunity to visit several Caribbean and Pacific islands, middle-income countries that have made steady economic progress despite being on the front lines of the climate crisis. Thanks to early and decisive action, they have largely been spared the health impact of COVID-19. But many are heavily indebted and their economies are now in free fall. Small island states rely heavily on tourism and remittances. Both are now at a standstill. Households that had a secure income are at imminent risk of poverty and hunger.
The chair of the African Union and president of the Republic of South Africa highlighted the need for a comprehensive debt framework and targeted debt relief to ensure sustainable development.
South Africa supports the call of the African Union for a debt standstill for 2 years. We support the allocation of more IMF special drawing rights to help central banks, the corporate sector, and small medium enterprises to withstand the shocks caused by the pandemic.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel stressed the need for solidarity in tackling the crisis brought on by COVID-19. She also spoke of opportunities.
Which is to say that our programs need to be in line with Agenda 23, with the Paris Climate Agreement, and with the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal. Germany continues to be committed to these objectives. This is why we support the European Commission's Green Deal. We have doubled our funds for the international climate finance when compared to 2014, because for us, climate protection and resilience are integral elements of our development cooperation. During our presidency of the G7 and the G20, for example, we have worked to advance climate risk insurance schemes. However, deciding on measures isn't enough. We must also ensure that these measures have the desired effect. It is important thus to ensure that international standards are adhered to. Last but not least, this entails that we stand up with determination to corruption and illicit financial flows. COVID-19 tests the international community, unparalleled since the Second World War. Only if we cooperate closely can we emerge stronger from the crisis, and we need to do that in order to be able to tackle other global problems on our agenda. We need the United Nations in order to overcome the pandemic with all its impacts at a global scale. Above all, we now need the World Health Organization. The World Bank and the IMF play a central role when it comes to overcoming the liquidity and financing problems of countries that are especially hard hit. Thus, Germany supports the United Nations and the World Bank, be it through speedily dispersing additional funds, be it through targeted reallocation of funds. And I would like to encourage others too to consider appropriate reallocation of funds. The time to act is now.
For the news on PBCJ, I'm Gabrielle Thompson.